Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today we're coming up on the college football season, so you know what that means. It's time for the depth chart predictions, talk about where these guys line up, how it's going to look heading into the fall, and there's a lot to talk about, obviously, with the transfer portal, new players coming in, and a lot of new names, so it's going to be a fun one. Caleb, how you doing?
I am so excited for football, Josh. You feel it's creeping up.
It's
the fantasy
slowly.
Football season is creeping up, and then college football is coming back in full swing. I'm ready, inject it in my veins. I can't wait to sit down for 12 hours and just watch some college football for the foreseeable future. I can't wait. And obviously, there's so much exciting thing with the Huskers this year. And depth chart video. Oh, baby.
Yeah, so
it's getting that time.
Pretty straightforward here, starting the defensive side and work our way through all the starters across the field. We have our template here that we can work through. And one interesting thing that happened just this week was Nebraska put out the top 10%, which was a really interesting, strange way to do it, talking about the 10% of guys who are like the elite guys that do things the right way. And there was definitely some interesting things to kind of pull from that. What were your thoughts on this 10%?
I thought it was super savage. They kind of talked about the 80-10-10 rule, which is hilarious because again, that's saying that the 10% of the value is gonna 80% of the values of those 10% of the players. So I think that's pretty savage that they put out again about 20% of the team. And
but they put out way more than 10%. I think that's why it was actually meaningful. So what do you feel like you can pull from this? Because I mean, it was 30 something players.
There was definitely some names that were on the list that is surprising or a good sign. And then there's some guys on the list that, again, we'll kind of talk about who weren't on the starting list. And I think as we go into the secondary, some of those guys weren't on the list, which was a little surprising.
Well, basically, the whole secondary.
The whole secondary, wasn't on the list. I think we got shout out Michael Booker III, being one of the only guys who's a defensive back on the list. I'm not sure if he'll see the field, but hey, who knows? His dad did.
So, I mean, how much weight are you putting towards this top 10%? There were some pretty big name guys not on it, so I don't think you can put all the weight.
Oh, yeah, you can't put all the chips. But I do think it does kind of help us narrow down a couple of the guys.
I agree.
I think.
And we'll talk about that for sure. So that's something to keep your eye on. And it's, I think, a cool thing that Huskers are doing. I like the transparency with the team. And man, I mean, obviously it can put some fire in these dudes' pants trying to, be higher character, work harder, and put their best foot forward. So with that said, let's start on the defensive side. And I mean, we just mentioned them, so let's start with the secondary. I mean, they're pretty straightforward here, considering they're all going to be the same starters from last year. They're all guys that you expect to be there. So, but let's start at full safety. I mean, who else besides Marques Buford here at full safety? Hardest hitter on the team last year, probably, and he was always flying around the field. We need to see step forward
highs,
from him.
Had some lows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We need to see more consistency from him. But at his best, he hit hard, played fast, and made a lot of big plays.
Yeah, and one of our better open field tacklers. So makes a lot of sense. Him and Miles Farmer again will kind of split
time.
He'll be split the time.
Yeah, I mean, Farmer will see the field for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll see him kind of rotate a little bit, but I definitely agree that I think Buford will be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, next to at safety, we'll do Omar Brown. I think, again, another one that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, with Brown, I think it's interesting because, I mean, last year he didn't play that much. He played, I think, 53 total snaps. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly how much we see from Omar Brown or Miles Farmer. I mean, I think we could see a lot from both of them, and Farmer will, probably play some free safety, play some strong safety, and move around the field. Maybe same with Omar Brown. I mean, even in spring, we heard Omar Brown talk about playing the rover position. So I think the coaches were still experimenting with Omar Brown and where he fits specifically. I think he's extremely talented and extremely athletic. So that's why we decided to put Omar Brown over Miles Farmer here. But that's where I think the biggest debate would come. Maybe the hottest take would be is Omar Brown over Miles Farmer, considering Miles Farmer played, 800 plus snaps last season. But I think the question for Farmer was in the tackling categories and moving around the field. So if anything, I think it's more likely that Farmer would end up playing strong safety, and then we'd see Omar Brown end up switching to more full safety or rover as the year goes along. But I kind of like the hot take of Omar Brown starting at strong safety and then seeing what happens this year. So it's a kind of a hot take not having Marques Farmer as a starter.
I don't know if he's not going to be the consistent guy. I could see him being a rotational guy in a lot of the different positions.
Yeah,
on the field.
I mean, that's the thing with these guys is we have a lot of guys who can play all over the field. I mean, with Gifford and these types of players.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's for sure. That's definitely a question for sure. So at both cornerbacks, it's nothing too surprising here, not much to say. We're going to have Quentin Newsome on one side and Malcolm Hartzog on the other. Of course, Hartzog going into his second season now as, playing
for a
true
big
freshman.
Step. Yeah.
If he takes that step up, this cornerback duo ends up looking amazing.
One of the most exciting guys. I'm looking forward to watching this next year. I'm sad I didn't see him in the top, the 10% because I really think that he has a lot of possibilities. Again, for that next level, if he keeps working hard, obviously being a true starter freshman, I mean that's as good as an opportunity as it gets in the Big Ten. You have a lot of opportunities to shine. So I hope to see him there because he could really be a stud for us and hoping to be like Cam Taylor-Britt in some sense with, just recency bias of being able to kind of continue to make those steps forward. Cause obviously he showed a ton of shine and those picks were crucial for us in winning some of those games last season. Yeah,
definitely. So with that said, I think we can go to the final secondary position or what looks like that to be in the 3-3-5 here, of course, which is the rover position, which is going to more than likely be Isaac Gifford. He, without a doubt, fits the play style the most, the hybrid linebacker, hybrid secondary player. Gifford can go all over the field. He can do it all. We saw him in the spring game playing a lot of slot coverage. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for him to play rover, even though in the spring there was a lot of news about Marques Farmer, Omar Brown getting work at rover. Without a doubt, Gifford fits like a glove here for the rover position, and I would bank on him playing there most of the year.
But again, Isaac, he did make that 10% thing on Twitter. So, and he was like, really the only starting secondary, saw significant snaps on there. Which again, makes sense. He's been a super consistent guy for us, great in coverage and better in tackling than some of those other linebackers. So if he's playing right next to the line of scrimmage, I really trust him kind of moving around the field.
So I mean, basically now with the linebacking core, there's two that are really obvious here. Obviously, it's the two that were starting all the last 2 years as well, which is Luke Reimer and, of course, Nick Henrich. With Henrich being back from the injury at middle linebacker, it just makes sense. Outside linebacker, with the coverage and the specialty there, Luke Reimer obviously going to find himself in a lot of coverage situations, and that's where he wants to be. So
that's his best spot. Yeah.
Overall, I mean, we're hoping to see improvement here. But in the run game and the run stop here at the point of attack from Henrich and Reimer, because it's been a problem the last 2 years at least.
They get a lot of tackles, but they're half tackles, my friends. They're not and they're not at the point of attack whatsoever.
No.
It's so with the safety, with the safeties and the corners are getting, better tackles. It's a problem. Yeah, one thing I do wish would happen is, again, I just don't think Nick Henrich is good at football. I think he's a good dude and a good leader and stuff. Yeah, but I just on the football potential, we just have not seen enough. Obviously, he's had a lot of missed tackles, and while he can be in the kind of the right spot, I just don't think he has enough athleticism to really carry him. And again, he's just not a great tackler, which you have to be at the linebacker spot, and we really haven't seen it from him. I kind of wish that we just move Reimer to the middle linebacker spot and that, we have MJ Sherman out there, and I'd rather see Chief Borders or Jamari Butler, kind of sharing some time, figuring out this spot instead of Nick Henrich playing.
Yeah.
Again, I think
Jamari Butler has potential too, for sure.
Yeah. I've seen him for years now, way too many years at this point. It feels like I hear good things about the dude, but he's not great.
Wow, that was the nicest you've ever been to Nick Henrich.
I know. I don't want to go through this. I've seen this movie before, as a legendary coach said.
I think overall that presents the highest upside for the defense, which for me is what gets me the most excited. And so at the other outside linebacker position, more than likely will end up being MJ Sherman from Georgia. He transferred from Georgia this year, and he's played moderate snaps his first 2 years at Georgia. In 2021, he had a total of 94 snaps, and then in 2022, he had 42 snaps, and he was fairly well graded on PFF throughout those snaps. So, I mean, the upside here for MJ Sherman is definitely there, and He seems to be a high character guy with a lot of work ethic, so you love to see that. And he seems to be just a chill dude to bring into the locker room. The MJ Sherman outside linebacker position here is pretty nice, and it's going to work out pretty well overall. But like you said, I think Chief Borders and Jamari Butler will also be subbed in and see their time as well. So definitely expect to see them on the field at the same time. So at the D-line here is probably where there's the most debate or controversy or thoughts, considering we have some X factors here with true freshmen on the defensive line. So one guy I think everyone can be pretty confident is going to find playing time is Ty Robinson at the nose tackle position. But as we've seen with the 3-3-5 or, playing 3-3-4 in the past, you're shifting guys on the left or the right side. So sometimes, nose tackle is D tackle, D end is nose tackle. It depends on how you're shifting. So generally, Ty Robinson will probably be that nose tackle, D tackle position. And then the question mark comes on the other sides of him, whether basically there's a handful of names here. It's Nash Hutmacher, it's Prince Will Umanmielen, Cam Lenhart, probably the three biggest names or most likely names that could be there, but Elijah Judy's there as well. You definitely worth mentioning AJ Rollins as well. So what are your thoughts on who else is going to see the field here?
Yeah, I think this is where, again, kind of that the Twitter post from Nebraska, I think, was hopefully showing their hand a little bit. This has definitely been, like one of the most contested spots because we just have a lot of guys here. I think a lot of new guys that, again, look kind of good in the spring game, heard good things about. I do think that now Lenhart, I think, actually might get one of these starting roles, which, again, is pretty surprising. And it's hard to think that that's going to be the case. Again, him being as young as he is, but I do think that he is going to get the start.
I mean, I just genuinely don't know if Nebraska's ever had a true freshman start week one. No. Has that ever happened? Yeah. I would be shocked.
I mean, again, Ty Robinson saw playing time as a freshman,
which was kind of even starting week
even
one
surprising.
As a true freshman.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think, again, Prince Will has a chance too. I'm not sure. If that's
again, both of them started the spring game.
I think Nash is going to get the start. If I had to make a guess.
With you as well too.
Yeah, but I do think Leonard is. Cam is going to be on the field, and I do think Prince will see significant time early, which is kind of crazy. And I mean, I like Elijah Judy too, so it's crazy to think that there'll be like two very young guys on the D line, and I do think partly though, I hate to say it again, but I do think that it doesn't look good on our O-line when true freshman guys that have just rolled onto campus, that haven't even been there that long, are just rolling out of high school, look good. Not ideal, not something you want to see. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's indicative of how good they are, but I'm a little concerned that it's just we have a really bad O-line.
For sure. So, I mean, Lenhart did look good. I mean, they both had juice in that spring game. They both had tackles for loss. Lenhart's first step was energetic. It had juice. I love the burst. And so overall, I mean, I'm okay seeing what happens with Cam Lenhart, but it's hard to imagine a world where like he's a dominant stud. Like he could be solid, he could be okay, but like it's just really so hard to imagine. You're just so underdeveloped versus guys who
those fifth, sixth year guys.
Fifth year, I mean, offensive linemen,
especially
from Minnesota
when you start with
Wisconsin.
Minnesota. We're gonna start with a really hard test in Minnesota. Like, that's gonna be really tough.
Yeah.
As they've had a great O-line these last few years.
Exactly. So I mean, overall, I think that's kind of like what we bank on being the starting 11 here on defense. All right, so now we're on to the offense, and also we had to push this second half of the recording to another day. We had some things come up. So long story short, we're back, baby. Offensive side here. So let's start off where it's pretty obvious, and we all know who the starting quarterback is going to be. This became quite clear after Casey Thompson transferred away, and that is going to be Jeff Sims. Any thoughts here on the quarterback situation? Maybe the backups are worth talking about, but what are your thoughts here?
I'm very surprised you said Jeff Sims. I really thought it was going to be a lock for my guy Henrich Harburg. So I'm kind of shocked that this isn't just a big conversation. I mean, QB battle in the offseason.
You're a Harburg guy, bro? Come on. I'm a Purdy guy, dude.
Oh, Purdy guy?
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, for the backup, yeah.
I
mean, it's crazy to think that, like, we thought we had a big QB battle going in this whole season.
I know,
but
right?
Casey...
I mean, it's going to be the end all be all debate again for us is whether or not Jeff Sims stays healthy. Obviously, none of us feel great about the backup situation here with whoever it's going to be, Henrich, Harburg, Chubba Purdy, or like Jack Wosh or whoever who came in, who transferred in as well. So it's not a pretty situation back there. So we're relying on Jeff Sims, but I think everyone feels pretty good about what we saw in the spring game, how accurate he was across the middle of the field, how nice of a release he had. And I was oozing over his release in our spring game breakdown video. And so overall, I think we're good about Jeff Sims. The rest of the depth chart at quarterback is scary. Stay healthy.
Sparse. It is sparse. The cabinet is a little barren.
Yes. So speaking of another pretty clear situation here at running back, I mean, Gabe Ervin has pretty much separated himself from the rest of the guys at this point. At least it seems like that in the minds of the new coaching staff. Ervin started the spring game. He's looked great. He was on the list of that, the 10%, unlike the rest of the running backs. And, we've obviously Anthony Grant's had his issues off field even last year. And then Reimer Johnson had his issues on the field and off the field last year. And then Emmett Johnson's still young as well. So thoughts of the running back room?
Anthony Grant had a great start of the season. And then obviously, the back end, not having Allen there anymore kind of stinks, but just how it is.
Yeah.
And man. Crazy.
But yeah, obviously, like you said, I mean, with AJ Allen leaving, that made this also extremely clear because the question was Gabe Ervin or AJ Allen for me before. And obviously, I think both of us were really excited about AJ Allen and the prospects that he had after the start of last season before the injury. I think we're going to get a more balanced workload, especially throughout the year to keep guys fresh and as injuries inevitably happen. But yeah, at the beginning, it's going to be Gabe Ervin, at least almost for sure. So let's now move to the offensive line here and work our way left to right here. So let's start at left tackle, and it's going to be Teddy Prochazka.
I don't think there's much of a question here on this part of the offensive line. Yeah, hopefully he can stay healthy for a whole season. That's a definite big goal for him. But hey, not so bad when we talk about the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, last year was a little... It was rocky. It was rocky, to say the least. I mean, I would say extremely, extremely disappointing considering the potential that he showed in the previous year before the injuries. I mean, he ended up only playing 212 snaps last year, and he was not well graded on PFF in those snaps, 49.5 overall rating with a 37.9 in pass block. So, you're almost a third as bad as Turner Corcoran.
Yeah,
and that's saying something.
So bad.
So we need to see a huge step up from Teddy Prochazka here at left tackle if we really want to have that big, next level approach to our offense here, especially on the offensive line. And that a lot of that's going to start here probably at left guard as well with the return of Norden Newley after his year-long suspension. And so here we are. I mean, how do you feel like Newley could impact this offensive line and its performance?
Well, this is really confusing because Ethan Piper is being sent to the Big Ten Media Days in the same position as Norden Newley. And also, I think maybe Piper made the list. Newley didn't on the list. Although, granted, can you have a guy that's suspended a whole season?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
For the top
no
10%
matter how hard of a worker
he
is. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's Barry Bonds at this point. So, except not Barry Bonds. So.
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
Obviously, he was the best performing offensive lineman 2 years ago. And so that was why we were all really excited about him going into the last season. And we really emphasized how devastating of a loss that was because we just didn't have another guy to replace him there. And we saw that throughout the season. I mean, yeah, like when it's Piper or you're having to move around Corcoran and all of these things throughout the year, it was ugly. And then when Prochazka went down, then we were right back to square one with this offensive line with Corcoran and Benhart playing both tackles. And that was not what we wanted to see. So it's a little bit better this year. But I mean, the left side of the offensive line, at least we can have a little bit more confidence. And I think especially in the running game to feel good about that going towards the left side. The question will be more the right side. We'll get to that in a second. So
where's Ethan Piper fit into this with him going to the Big Ten Media Day? Like that, you don't usually send a backup.
No.
Do you?
No. I mean, I have no idea. At this point, it's like, is he just kind of like the flex role on the offensive line for whoever's hurt or banged up? Like
I don't see
left
a
guard,
world
right
where
guard,
he
center.
jumped Newley in this time.
No. Unless you're saying he's going to move to right guard and play over Turner Corcoran.
Which I also would think would be a little surprising.
Yeah.
Because I think
Corcoran's got the body.
Yeah.
So we'll see there. So at center, then this is where, it's getting interesting. This is where Ben Scott comes into the equation, the transfer, obviously, and a lot of hype here coming from Arizona State. And he was a good player for Arizona State as well in his time per position. Like, what are your thoughts on an impact of Ben Scott?
I mean, this is the biggest transfer for us this season, I think. Besides, obviously Sims. But, Sims doesn't come, Casey probably stays. But so I think Ben Scott is probably the most impactful because, again, it was just we're desperately bare at offensive line. And so having somebody with starting experience, which we can't really say for a lot of the other transfers, but again, besides Sims.
Yep.
So again, getting him that's huge for our offense and the continuity and just upping the skill level because we were clearly the worst offensive line in the Big Ten and it was not particularly close. So this maybe bridges the gap. Iowa was the only competitor.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like already Ben Scott in 3 years at Arizona State has 1,721 snaps in his career. So that is significant. Awesome. 250 as a freshman, 767 in 2021 and 704 in 2022. And he was respectably graded on PFF throughout that time. And interestingly enough, he is very large for a center, 6'5", 310 listed. That is huge for a center. And so this should, add some more size, maybe allow us to be a little bit more creative with how we move these guys on the offense on the front in the front five and how we pull and have some interesting, maybe some plays here. I'd be really interested to see how we utilize a guy like Ben Scott throughout this season. So to me, it's exciting and the biggest piece we've been looking for that replacement at center, since Kemp left and last year was not it. So hopefully Ben Scott can be it for us. And we'll see how that plays out. So at right guard, then it's our guy, Turner Corcoran, coming in more than likely at right guard. The only other option would be if Ethan Piper moves on that side or if Henry Lutovsky ends up coming in. But I don't see that happening. I think the experience for Corcoran and moving him inside, hiding him a little bit.
Just experience.
Right. Because we saw like Corcoran's problem was half the time he was just beat by the first step on the outside. He just didn't have the mobility, the movement. And so moving him inside makes so much sense to me. And I like it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he wasn't bad as the season progressed when he was on the inside, like you said, not on a tackle spot because, he just got cooked by a defensive end. But he has the body size to be on the inside and again, was respectable. And that move really helped our offensive line be a lot better towards the end of the season. So, I definitely think that he has a room to improve and grow. And I think he can.
Well, there's nowhere to go but up.
Really. I mean, he started from the bottom.
So we will see. It's going to be fascinating for sure. So there's not much else to say there. At right tackle, then you got Bryce Benhart. And
so gross.
The right, let's just say, I think we're going to be running to the left more than we're going to be running to the right this year.
I can't believe he made the list. Like, I don't know how you can watch the film on a season and say this guy does it right.
The thing 10%. is that unlike Corcoran, who, was just devastatingly bad in pass block and not good in run block either, at least Benhart had a more respectable run blocking resume than Corcoran did. And then pass blocking, I would say they both had the same lows, but Benhart,
which is pretty low,
higher highs. Which they weren't very high, but they were pretty high compared to Corcoran. So I think overall,
fair.
Like Benhart is a better player than Corcoran, and that's why he's going to be on the outside, and he has more mobility, even though he's huge. I think he's 6'9", and so
it's hard.
Overall, I think this front five as a whole with these five guys, I mean, I feel decent about with the return of Newly and with Scott coming in at center.
I think Hood's interesting on the backup right tackle. He was the Georgia transfer, redshirt freshman. I don't think he'll see a ton of playing time, but I think for the future, like that's exciting for us in the right tackle. I mean, maybe he will get some snaps. Who knows? I mean, Prohaska and Newly came in kind of young and looked really good too. So, yeah, maybe that's a difference for us too. If Bryce really just isn't giving us what we need.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we have better options than last year, but Jacob Hood, I don't think played any snaps at Georgia. I think this would be his first time coming in. So I don't assume that he would have an impact early.
I don't see him.
It's more of a desperate situation. Yeah. Now let's talk tight ends here, because tight end is actually really interesting considering how many names we have there and the potential for us to play a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field, and how we've been using some of these winger positions that that they've talked so much about. So what are your thoughts here at tight end?
Yeah, well, I guess a lot is going to be on the Eric Gilbert. We'll find out the news if he could be eligible or not. Yeah, but I do think that Nate Borkacher and Thomas Fidone is a really solid tight end scheme for us if we go into the 12 personnel. And I think that, again, like Janaran Bonner, we saw him getting some snaps at the
he was the starter
position.
Technically in the spring game.
Yeah. So I think that we're going to really utilize all 3 guys. And if Gilbert ends up becoming eligible, I think we see 4 guys getting playing time. I think this is one of our deeper positions. And again, that's something we really need. Again, those tight ends being able to set those edge against blocks for us last year, that really opened up the offense in a lot of ways when we started running to the outside. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of these guys. But I definitely see, obviously Fidone as the biggest pass catching threat. But Nate Borkacher, he could do some things as well.
I mean, Borkacher is just going to be like the reliable guy who can just kind of do it all, but he's not going to be great at anything. So you're really hoping, obviously, for Fidone to break out, and then the physical prowess of Gilbert to show up. And then that's where you have like the potential there. But Gilbert, he dropped some passes in a spring game. He didn't look that great. And so we'll see what happens with how Gilbert plays. But yeah, we really need Fidone to break out. And then maybe find interesting ways to utilize Janaran Bonner's athleticism. But I think it'll be interesting to see, because last year, I mean, Chancellor Brewington was such an X factor for our offense in pass blocking and downfield blocking in the run game. So, are you going to be able to replace that exactly? And so we're going to have to really find that grinder mentality from one of these tight ends to replace kind of some of that blocking production from Brewington. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, Brewington just was excellent at one thing, and that worked on the field. Like, if he was just there to light people up, and that was great. And hey, he had a couple of really important catches as the season went on, a couple of really big 3rd down conversions. So, and some big plays. So all deserving, because again, Chancellor was just looking for heads. And
so if you had
he will be missed.
If you had to bank on who's actually going to see the most playing time, who do you think gets more snaps week 1 against Minnesota?
I think they're both going to get a lot. I'll go with Fidone, though. I think that.
Okay. I think I'll go with Borkacher. A fun little wager.
All right. That's fun. We'll find out, won't we?
We will. Okay, so now finally at wide receiver here. And it's
spice.
Fairly straightforward, but there are some interesting conversations to be had. Let's start on the X wide receiver on the outside here. Kind of supposedly the lead wide receiver, one who more than likely will lead the team in catches, although that'll be debatable. More than likely, I think it's going to be Marques Washington. What are your thoughts there, and what's the competition?
I think it's going to be Malachi Coleman.
I think week 1?
I think week 1, yeah.
Okay, this is suddenly spicy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that Malachi Coleman, I think that he's just a more talented dude, and we want him out there right away. So I know that's crazy. I think, Marques is going to be taking the back seat, though. I think Malachi is just more athletic. And I know that Marques is probably a better route runner.
I mean, I don't know. 5th-year senior.
I don't think you can keep Malachi off the field. I think Marques Washington's going to be more of he's the 4th guy, I think, in my mind. So I think he's going to be in different spots. I think that Malachi is going to see the field more, though. I'm going to lock him in as a starter for me.
I mean, what's the narrative here? Is it like, because Marques Washington played 519 snaps. I mean, wouldn't it be more likely then that you would move Marques Washington over to the Y then, and then that would bump like Zavier Betts off the field or something like that? Like what? Because I mean, Marques Washington played 519 snaps last year, and obviously he was our most reliable receiver. Yes, that's the argument, I guess, is that he came here for Casey Thompson. Does that affect his performance?
Yeah. I think, I don't know if it's performance, but playing time, I think so. I don't know. For me, I see Malachi Coleman getting the field on the start right away.
Wow. I would be shocked if Malachi Coleman is out there week 1 more snaps than Marques Washington. That would be insane. Another wager?
Sure, why not?
I mean, I would bank my life on Marcus Washington having more snaps in week 1.
Your whole life.
I've bet my whole life. Yeah. You can end me if Malachi Coleman has more snaps than Marcus Washington in week 1. You heard it here first. I will be deceased. So, interesting. Then drop your comments down below about who you guys think will end up there, because we are split. You guys are the judge and jury here. Then let's move over to the Z on the other side of the field. Then then in this situation, do you think Marcus Washington would end up at the Z, or is that still too much of a different type of position with Zavier Betts or maybe Isaiah Garcia Castaneda getting that position? We saw Zavier Betts on the top 10 or the 10% list, unlike Marcus Washington. So what are your thoughts at Z? My bet would be for Betts.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. And I think, again, Marcus Washington is just going to be subbed in a lot in the X and in the Z. I think that he gets playing time at both of those positions. Again, I think he sees the field plenty, but I think he's just more of a gadget guy at this point. So, I think Betts will get the start again with the list, which is exciting. But yeah, I think that's how I see it. I see Marcus Washington. He's our 4th wide receiver. So we go in packages with 4 wide receivers. He's the 4th guy.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more like Malachi Coleman. As the year progresses, will get significantly more involved. But week 1 playing against Minnesota, it's going to be Marcus Washington. Then maybe as you start finding some of the, the crap teams that we're going to be playing, then suddenly Malachi Coleman gets integrated in these non-con games. And then we start seeing Malachi really get involved in the second half of the year.
I just don't think you can replace his size for him being as tall as he is.
Marcus Washington's 6'2".
I mean, but yeah, Malachi's like what, 6'5"?
Yeah, 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, I know. So that's the difference. But
it's like Omar Manning. It's like Omar Manning never ended up working out. So it's who knows?
Yeah, but Omar Manning, I mean, I guess he was pretty high ranked out of JUCO. But right. I mean, he had other, I mean,
obviously, I'm more excited for Malachi Coleman, but yes, in the long term, in the short term,
and Omar was good. He just couldn't stay on the field.
Well, right, there was other issues there. So
yeah.
I'm with you. I think overall that would be the question. So it is interesting. That's why wide receiver is probably the most interesting. So then at slot, though, this is pretty locked in at this point. This is going to be Billy Kemp. I mean, we saw him absolutely tear it up, cook in the spring game, and he was on the list. And so overall, I think you got to feel
I'm excited about
pretty confident. And he looked, I mean, man, Jeff Sims and him looked to have some sort of special connection, and Sims likes slinging out there quick in these little slant routes. Dude, it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, Billy Kemp was cooking. I'm very excited for him just throughout the season. He looked super good.
And Joshua Fleeks as well. It looks like he's gonna be doing a lot of the special teams work as well with Billy Kemp. So, I mean, Fleeks will see the field in the slot. Even though Billy Kemp, is what, a 6th-year senior now coming from Virginia. He has, 1,400 total snaps in his career. So he's going to be reliable week 1, and obviously him and Jeff Sims already have a good connection, and he seems to be a really good force in the locker room. So, I mean, overall, I'm excited about the receiving core, even after the losses that we took. And the passing game should be in a pretty interesting spot with his offense. The offensive line improved. The running game should be at least pretty reliable. Like, there is potential here on the offensive side.
Yeah, definitely have hopes that this could be a kind of fun electric offense. Obviously, it's not that hard in the Big Ten West to have being the best offense in the Big Ten West. That's a reasonable bar, seeing how, Purdue lost like everything last year, and they were like the only respectable offense in like the 50s in the nation.
Satterfield and Rule, it seems, all the talk is they want to run the ball. They want to make this a run-first team. Jeff Sims obviously has the legs to make it happen, and so it'll be interesting to see exactly how this offense develops. I think we're going to see a weird hybrid like we saw with the pistol formations. I think we're going to see a lot more of this gadgety, gimmicky offense, which is going to be fun to watch. And we're going to run the ball a lot, keep the ball on the ground, and then take our shots when needed. But Jeff Sims seems to have the arm talent to make it happen. So overall,
definitely
with the depth chart, I'm very interested. A little bit more depth than last year, I think, especially on the offensive line.
Definitely on the offense, it feels a little more deep, except for quarterback.
Right. And so that'll be the debate. And overall, is a quarterback, and then losing Trey Palmer, replacing that production. It's not going to be easy, but overall, across the receiving core, having a reliable slot guy like Billy Kemp, I think we can make it happen. And Zavier Betts, if he can return to any sort of form that he had 2 years ago, then suddenly we're getting really excited. So there is potential, and we'll definitely talk more about that potential in upcoming videos for sure. So be on the lookout for some more videos coming as soon as we're getting now T-minus less than 2 months from the first kickoff, and so it's going to be fun. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a comment down below. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That was Caleb. And this has been Backseat Sports. And we'll see you next time.
Go Big Red.